Good evening. Hopefully you guys can join us tonight. I'm sorry to make you wait all day and then to have a challenge that you guys have to do. It doesn't necessarily have to be done today, so we'll chat about that. But we're talking today about spotting secret sugars. So most of you will probably have to catch this on the replay, as I realize a lot of you are probably doing bedtime and just winding down for the day. But this is a topic that can get really overwhelming, especially if you are new to artificial sugars and sweeteners and just even sugar in general. So there's a few things that I want you to consider about sugar that maybe you haven't before. Everyone knows that sugar is not healthy for us, right? Like if we're eating a candy bar, we know that probably wasn't as good of a choice as our fat smoothie or other things. So there's no shocker there, but sometimes we forget how detrimental sugar can be on the system. So consider this: the average intake of sugar every day for like an average American is 32 teaspoons a day of sugar. So that's 77 pounds of sugar every year that we're consuming. So it's a bigger deal than we think about. If we took out 32 packets of sugar at the beginning of the day and thought about the fact of like consuming those all day long, it actually would probably not even sound that appetizing to us. But that's what we're doing, and they are secret in a lot of times, in a lot of foods. Especially packaged foods. So it's important to be ready to spot them. So think about what sugar is actually doing in the body when you consume it, and that motivates me a little bit more, right? So gross. So what does sugar do in the body? The scientific terms would be increasing, sugar metabolizes directly into fat when it's consumed. So your body can metabolize safely about 6 teaspoons a day. So if your average, now think about that, that's average. So 32 teaspoons a day is the average intake. So some people are consuming more than this. 32 teaspoons a day, and only 6 teaspoons a day can really be used by the body. So the rest of it are metabolized directly into fat. So if you've had trouble losing weight, your energy levels are low, it is probably because you're addicted to sugar and you're consuming more of it than you realize. So you should on average have about 25 grams a day of sugar, and that includes your fruit. So remember that when we're eating fruit is good, right? It comes from the earth, but it does have a natural fructose in it. So we just want to be aware of that. If we're going to be eating fruits, a lot of times it should just happen in the morning, so we've got time to burn it off. Eating a big old bowl of ice cream and fruit or something at night, it's just hard for the body to actually metabolize that quickly enough before you lay down and rest, and then it will just turn into fat. So sugar feeds bad cells. So if you've done much education for yourself on natural living, you know that sugar can elevate your blood glucose levels. It increases insulin, and it increases inflammation. So if you've got issues losing weight, if you've got issues with chronic inflammation and pain, you probably have high levels of sugar that you're consuming. And normally immediately you go, no, not me, I don't eat sugar, I don't put sugar on anything. And I'm not talking about the sugar that we're putting on things. So I'm not talking about your sugar jar at home. Hopefully you don't even have a sugar jar. I'm talking about what's already in our foods that we're maybe not aware of. So I always teach and have been taught that bad oils or bad fats create bad cells, and that's true. What feeds those bad cells, what increases their proliferation or their division and growth, is sugar. So if you are scared of the C word, if cancer runs in your family, if you feel like that is something that you want to do your best to watch out for, then sugar is something that you've got to take seriously, because it has been studied to promote bad cell division and speed the growth of bad cells. So that's cancer, right? We talked about apoptosis earlier this week. So reminder, be careful with natural sugars. but there are good alternatives. So here's one, maybe you've heard of it. It's called stevia. Stevia is a natural sweetener. It's actually a plant. You can grow it in your garden, and then you can make stevia powder with it, or stevia liquid. There's all different kinds of stevia, and I'm not going to really teach much about that today, because that's not necessarily a secret sugar that we're watching out for, but it is a good natural sweetener if you're looking for an alternative. But still, too much sweets, no matter if it's made out of good sweeteners or not, can still be bad for the system. So we just have to remember, Kristen and I used to always talk about this, we have tons and tons and tons of recipes for healthy desserts. So if you ever need to get in contact with me for those, I can get them for you. We make strawberry streusel bars, we make chocolate protein bars, we make chocolate cakes, and she's got like a 7-layer what is that chocolate, like lasagna, I think she calls it. I mean, seriously, we've got so many healthy recipes, but it doesn't mean that those are nutritious. It doesn't mean that they're packed full of nutrients and vitamins and minerals that our body needs. It just means that it's not a negative. It's kind of a neutral. So just consider that even with natural sugars, you don't want to sit down and still eat a whole pan of it, even if it's good for you, because it's still sugar. So there are some good sweeteners that come from the earth that are man-made, or that are God-made, like agave, honey, maple syrup, coconut sugar. You can consider some of those, and those are good for you. The body knows how to metabolize those and how to use them. But remember, they're still pure sugar. So even if you're eating raw honey, or you're having like local maple syrup, or things like that, it's still just sugar. It's still sugar. So just make sure that you're very careful how much of it you're consuming, because it's an addictive thing, right? So let's talk about what's not good. Well, first of all, let me back up. If you're using these agave, honey, maple syrup, coconut sugar, you want to make sure they're raw. You want to make sure they're locally sourced if at all possible, and then you want to make sure it's in its purest form. So when I use honey, I like to use raw honey in a smoothie, and so that doesn't, there's no heat involved, or like you could add some honey to sweeten up a salad dressing or something like that, and that's all raw, so that's good. But let's talk about some of the bad sweeteners. That's really what this whole live is about, is spotting the secret sugars, the ones that the food industry doesn't want you to know about. So we're going to be talking about a few of them, and I hope that you've heard these names before. So if you haven't, write them down, because you want to be looking for them. Aspartame, Splenda, high fructose corn syrup. So there are probably other ones, but you want to make sure that you're looking for these specifically. There are so much out there to learn about these three. So aspartame, Splenda, high fructose corn syrup. So let's talk about what fake sugars or man-made sugars like aspartame, Splenda, and high fructose corn syrup are doing in the body. They are a huge source of weight gain, cancer, fatty liver disease, increase in cholesterol, and leaky gut, which you might be familiar with if you've got any kind of digestive distress. So aspartame has only been around since the 1980s. And I remember being a kid, I even remember where we were at, there was some kind of sweetened sugary drink or something that I remember begging my mom for at the Econo Foods in Watertown, South Dakota. And I remember her saying, that has aspartame in it, we're not going to get that. And I remember asking her why did it matter? And she's like, well, there's not a whole lot of research out about that, and I just don't know if it's safe yet. And that was so instinctful of my mom back in the day when we really didn't know a lot about health. It's important to be wary of things until we really know what's going on. And now here we are 30 years later, and we are learning that aspartame is so dangerous for the body. There's actually 92 different health side effects that have been studied to arise from the regular consumption of aspartame. So here's just a couple of them. They're kind of a big deal. Brain tumors, birth defects, diabetes, mood disorders, seizures. This isn't like headache. sore throat. This is like major stuff. This is aspartame. So the long-term studies that they've done here now are showing that these are very, very common. So consider that when you're looking for aspartame. Here are some of the products that you'll find aspartame in. Children's drinks, children's medicine, Jello, candy, gum, cereal, condiments, flavored water, even some of the stuff in the health market in Hy-Vee you want to be careful of, and then yogurts. Those all typically have aspartame in them. You have to actually read the ingredients list to know, but it will be listed. And if it says aspartame, you're in trouble. You want to get it out of your house. They have done some looking into what happens when we store aspartame for a long time, or if it gets heated and it actually changes into formaldehyde. So just so bad, so bad, so bad. So aspartame, no good. Got to get it out of your house, out of your body. So let's move on to Splenda. Splenda's scientific name is called sucralose. Maybe you've seen that in some labels that you've read. Anything that ends in OSE, that's sugar. Dextrose, sucrose, sucralose, fructose, it is sugar. So OS, they're just trying to trick you. It's still sugar. So Splenda, don't think that you're getting away with it if you're eating Equal or Sweet and Low. Splenda, Equal, Sweet and Low, they're all the exact same thing. So just different brands trying to trick you. So all those little packets that you find on the tables, terrible, toxic, throw them away. We don't want any of that in our house. They all come from a laboratory. They're all made in a lab. It cannot be good. So here are some of the foods that have those items in there. Almost every ice cream, salad dressings, juices, boxed desserts, coffee creamers, Crystal Light, not good, Kool-Aid, diet drinks, health foods, like tons of health foods have sucralose in it, proteins, supplements, and Flintstone vitamins. Anybody ever take those as a kid? Sucralose, Splenda in there. So know that. The thing is, most people, I know, right? You can make your own ice cream, Angela, or Breyers does not have artificial sweeteners in there. You can find it, or some local stuff will be better. But yeah, toothpaste, I mean, it's insane. So aspartame, Splenda, sucralose, Equal, Sweet and Low, all of that. There's actually current lawsuits out for some of these sweeteners, but they're still on the market because the FDA is in love with them. So imagine having an actual lawsuit out for something that you are consuming, but nobody is looking out for you. So we have to look out for ourselves. Splenda manufacturers will claim to be more natural because they say it actually comes from sugar. And that's totally true, but it literally takes dozens of chemical reactions to create this Splenda. They actually have to chlorinate the sugar, and that's how we get sucralose or Splenda. So there's no long-term studies. There's nobody that's actually even looked into this. Is this actually safe for our bodies? But I always say if it takes a dozen chemical reactions to make something, there's no way our body knows how to process it. No way. So the last thing I want to talk about is high fructose corn syrup. Now, what's crazy is you've probably actually seen commercials on TV about this. 3-4 years ago, high fructose corn syrup, nobody knew the words, and so they could just call it healthy. Well, now people are starting to become aware. You and I are learning. We're becoming educated consumers, conscious consumers. So now the corn industry, now again, I have nothing to say about how you do your business, how you make your livelihood, but we have to be conscious consumers for ourselves and our health and for our children, for the people that can't speak for themselves. So just know that $50 million has been spent in the last couple of years to change the public's understanding of high fructose corn syrup, so that they see it now labeled corn sugar. So they know that people are looking to stay away from high fructose corn syrup now. So now they're labeling it corn sugar. They've spent millions and millions of dollars to do this, but it's still bad. It doesn't matter if the name changed, it's still bad. So GMO'd corn, genetically modified corn, is how they make this. And you can find a lot of research studies that show there's actually high levels of mercury in high fructose corn syrup. So a lot of people are really scared of heavy metals. They've even questioned things like vaccines and all of that because of levels of mercury and aluminum and formaldehyde. I'm just telling you, there are so many foods with high fructose corn syrup, and there are micrograms of mercury in high fructose corn syrup. So look it up. You don't have to take my word for it. But know that that's something that you should be educated on, because I'm telling you, the ketchup that you're putting on your children's plate probably has high fructose corn syrup in it. A lot of condiments do. Ketchup, barbecue sauce, salad dressings, cereals, a lot of health bars, juice, canned fruit, any kind of syrup like that will have it potentially. And then there's a lot of breads with high fructose corn syrup. That's typically one of the first ingredients. So make sure that you're looking out for no sugar added or sugar free. Those are no-nos. We don't want anything like that. I know you think you do because of everything I just told you, but that label means they've added an artificial sweetener. They haven't just taken out the sugar. No one would eat it, right? It wouldn't taste good probably. So they just add artificial sweetener. So look out for no sugar added, sugar free. Know that the reason they're using this high fructose corn syrup is because it is so cheap to manufacture. So it's just pennies to make this stuff. And so they, because you've got corn growing everywhere in this world, right? And then they genetically modify it. It can grow faster. They can make it sweeter than sugar even. So high fructose corn syrup, this Splendor's app, that's sweeter than sugar. So they hardly have to use any of it to sweeten all of these foods. And then it's addictive. It is addictive. So if you feel like you're addicted to sugar and addicted to sodas and addicted to ice cream, you just are. You don't have to feel bad. They have created a chemical that actually tricks your brain to want to keep going back for it, back for it, back for it. Why do you think you can eat an entire row of Oreos, right? In college, I could eat an entire row, sometimes an entire package, because it's an addiction. There's actually chemicals in there that are messing with your brain to be addicted to that. So those are the three naughties: aspartame, Splenda or sucralose, equal sweet and low, and then high fructose corn syrup. So here's my challenge. I want to see if any of this is in your house. Don't you want to know? Don't you want to know if you've been tricked into getting something that you thought was okay, but it actually has some of that in there? So I want you to go on a hunt, and anybody that can find something in their house with any of these ingredients in there, I want you to post it. And then if you're bold enough, I want you to throw it out. And if you need to know what a replacement is for something, then just post that as well. Because I'm eating and living in this world, and I promise you that we are still using ketchup, and we're still having salads with dressings and all that. So we can get you some alternatives to that. But as you can maybe hear, my little boy is screaming his face off in the other room, so I've got to cut this pretty short tonight. So I appreciate for you guys all hanging out late. It was a different day than I had anticipated, so I had to catch you later tonight. But I'm back here tomorrow, and we're going to be talking about how to actually read labels. So I probably should have done that one before this one again. Maybe our schedule is a little off, but I want you to go and start looking at the ingredients list on your box foods, the things in your fridge and all of that. You're looking for aspartame, Splenda, sweet and low, equal, high fructose corn syrup, and you're making a commitment to getting that stuff out of your house because it is affecting your brain, it's affecting your cells, and we want to be people that are not consuming the average 32 teaspoons of sugar a day. I'm not talking about the sugar that you're putting on top of your food. This is sugar that is in our food that we don't even know about. So, and a lot of it is artificial, and the body doesn't know how to process it. So throw your questions up here. I can maybe upload some recipes like I saw you guys were messaging about. I know it is scary. You're going to be surprised what kind of foods have this stuff in there. So you can know for sure if you've got Crystal Light, Kool-Aid, Flintstone vitamins, all that, it's already in there. And then I'm going to post a couple of links that are really awesome. One talks about it'll list a bunch of brand names of foods that have aspartame and Splenda in it. And then there is another link that I'm going to post that explains how the body actually responds to mega dosing on sugar. So if you drink a pop, like a Coke, do you know what actually happens in the body? It is so crazy, you guys, because your body cannot physically process that much sugar at one time. And so I'm going to post that too, and hopefully I can kick you guys, some of you that are still in a pop drinking habit. I promise you it's so sweet on the other side. I used to drink so much pop in my life. It saves so much money when you can switch over. And so I just want to give you a little inspiration to do that. So hopefully you can spot the secret sugars in your house and then throw up a post. Everyone that throws up a post of something. If you can't find it in your home, then just post that you didn't find anything, and that would be awesome. Otherwise, when you're grocery shopping this weekend, look at the backs of some of your regular items and see if you can find them in there. All right? Spot the secret sugars, guys. Holler if you need anything. We'll see you tomorrow.